All right, we are back. We're live. Another episode of Legal AI Live. Damien, I'll kick it over to you to kick things off.
Awesome, Matthew. Thanks so much. These are exciting times. Welcome to a beautiful Friday afternoon in the summer where it seems like every day all the things happen all at once. So we have really smart people here to talk about what's been happening, including I'll go one by one, maybe give a sentence or two about who you are and what you do. And I'm going to start with Carolyn Elephant.
Hi, Carolyn Elephant. I own the law offices of Carolyn Elephant, which is National Energy Practice, and I also write the My Shingle blog. So I help solos and smalls learn how to start practices and more recently how to incorporate AI.
Awesome. Thanks, Carolyn. Next on my screen is Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. I'm General Counsel at Ironclad, which is a legal AI company. We accelerate business or contracts by way of AI, legal technology, contract lifecycle management. Before this, I scaled legal teams across a number of tech companies here in the Bay Area, and I started my practice in-house as a litigator. It's nice to be here and join you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Jasmine. Next on my screen is Dorna.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. I am CEO and founder of Gavel, and we are an automation platform for drafting work product. And we actually just were acquired by Relativity a couple weeks ago. So excited to be here. Also a former lawyer, practiced for almost a decade as a litigator, last at Sidley Austin. So excited to chat more about the topics you guys all have.
Awesome. Former lawyer. I'd say once a lawyer, always a lawyer. So you can
Always
be
a lawyer.
fine.
I'm still barred. I still pay my dues and do my MCLE.
Great. Yeah, maybe not as long as you're not barred from the bar. I think you're still a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go on to next on my screen is Greg.
So I'm Vice President of Thought Leadership and Applied AI at the American Arbitration Association, where I help build the various tools that we're building with AI and also help run our internal think tank, the AAA ICDR Institute.
Awesome. Last on my screen is Matthew.
Yeah, and hey everybody, I'm Matthew Kurbis. I'm the subscription attorney and the CEO of Practi, that powers subscription billing for law firms. And yeah, I'm living in this AI world right now. I've actually been able to do real teachings and trainings that are not locked into CLE, so I could show off for real like how to use these AI tools in real working environments that I do as a practitioner that lets me have time to have a legal tech software company. So yeah, really exciting times. I'm excited to talk about it today.
Awesome. I think that's everybody except for me. Damien Real, I'm a builder who also talks about stuff that we build. And so I've been a coder since 85, a lawyer since 2002. And I always like to take the mantle of lawyer. I think litigating for 15 years, I feel like we as lawyers and litigators, we think differently than most. So let's start with, and we also have Nick. Nick, go ahead. We're just doing 2-sentence intros.
Oh, hi. Nick Rishwain, experts.com, recent interviewer of Dorna Moini. So really just thrilled to be here.
As are we. So you got us right, Nick. Before I was going to ask the first question of the session, that the Legal AI Daily Brief is NLW is a host of it. He introduced me to a word called excitement. That is, everyone during these AI times are both anxious and excited. And that combination is excitement. And so my question for the panel, and we can go through, and whoever wants to think about it first, is what has been the most exciting, most terrifying, or both in the last month? So in the last month, what have you found that has given you excitement? That is both maybe something that might be exciting, something that might be terrifying, something that might be both. And I'd open it up to the panel as far as what happened in the last month that might be any of those things.
The token apocalypse, Damien. Okay, that's what's been giving me anxiety and excitement. All right. First of all, as a user of a lot of AI, I am now trying to find more and more ways to just leverage my existing tools that don't require tokens. Hello, Comet Browser and Perplexity Enterprise environment. Okay, like that's been like my saving grace here, and I really hope that they don't like switch to tokens inside of Comet Browser because that will be scary for me. But the exciting part of the token apocalypse is lawyers are experiencing what it's like to be billed by the hour, to have a metered billing approach. And they're hating it, right? And so, yes, finally, now they know what it's like. And maybe they're going to realize, oh, this is not a good way to do business.
That's token apocalypses. We've had SaaS apocalypse, software as a service apocalypse, token apocalypse. I'm sure there's going to be many other apocalypses before we finish this. Any other ideas with excitement? Exciting, terrifying, or both?
I'll share. I think one of the things I'm really excited about is just in the ways that people are thinking more creatively about leveraging things like MCP to connect various tools to their systems of work that exist and pulling in context to be able to do their work better. I think just the prospect of being able to connect your workflows and get what you need to get your work done, not just like an AI chatbot, I think is really exploding across the practice now in a way that I think it was lagging before, right? Most folks were using AI as like a Google search where they were like, let me ask this question and get an answer. I think we're really moving past that. And I'm excited about it because I think it's really infiltrating our workflows. The anxiety part I've got is just the continued conviction and confidence with which AI delivers answers and with which I see certain people taking those answers as truth, right? The softening of the critical eye and the judgment that I'm seeing across folks who are like, well, AI said it's true, so that's the right starting place. And then the overcoming of the hurdle that we have to do to convince someone actually no, what you read first was wrong. Let us correct that opinion or that now strongly held view. And sometimes that's creating more work. So I've got a little anxiety around that.
I think everybody with a brain has anxiety about that. I think that there's something called machine bias to be able to say if the machine says it, it must be true. And that was the reason that a whole bunch of GPSs led people into lakes, because people drove into lakes saying, well, the GPS led me there, so the machine must be true. So I think there's a lot of AIs leading people into lakes without doing that critical view that you're thinking through. So yes, agreed. From other panelists, other areas of excitement, either excitement, terrifying, or both.
I did have one anxiety inducing moment. I think I talked to Matthew about this and Carolyn too. Last month, I was on a community call with a bunch of my expert witnesses, a bunch of my customers, and they were getting far more questions about their AI usage and deposition than I was aware. Previously, I've banked on the fact that usually the attorneys are a little further behind than I expect. So anyway, about 40% of the participants had been asked about AI use and deposition. They did not know how to answer some of the questions. Some of the questions the attorneys were asking were not answerable because they didn't understand how to ask the questions either. But it is certainly happening in litigation. So I had to go in and actually do research like I once did in law school or, in grad school and stuff like that, and actually had to write an article on this, find resources. Carolyn sent me some resources, several folks in the legal tech space did, and had to put together a pretty good article on deposition questions to be prepared for, how you should be prepared for them, what the courts are saying, and so forth. And so, yeah, that was a little anxiety inducing because the number of them who have been asked this question and they were unprepared for them, and retaining counsel had not prepared them for such questions. So it was pretty eye-opening.
Really helpful. Others on anxiety, excitement, or both?
I'm going to bring up a topic. Oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead, Dorna.
I was going to say a topic that probably a lot of you are eager to talk about, which is just law schools banning AI. It's definitely something that, and the reason I would say only anxiety, but the reason it brings me excitement is that we are now finally having some of these conversations in a real way. And we can decide how do we think as a whole, as a legal profession, that we can best train the junior lawyers while maintaining some system of thought where we're not just blindly handing things over to systems to take over. But I'm sure we'll chat more about that as well.
100%. On Wednesday, I gave a talk to Berkeley, one of those schools that have banned AI, or at least had a policy on AI saying that by default it's banned, but your professors can be able to change the default. So I was giving a talk to them this past Wednesday night, and only at the end of my talk did I realize, I've been suggesting this entire talk that they jump in and use AI as much as they can, but they can't use it for any of their schoolwork. So I had to caveat it at the end saying, yeah, don't use it for everything I just said for the last hour. Don't use it for the schoolwork, but definitely do it outside of your schoolwork. And because you need to do this to be able to be competitive. So anyway, so yeah, these are weird time for law students that have schools that ban such things. Greg or Matt? I guess Matthew has already said, but whoever has not talked about excitement, go ahead. Maybe
so
Greg.
I'm happy to talk, I guess, about anxiety. I wouldn't say that I'm terrified about this, but I think we're seeing more and more nation states dictating who can release models when and who can access them. And this seems like a theme that's going to be building. It's not only in the US. So there are some reports about China contemplating, similar dynamics. And then, you look at the AI 2040 report that the AI Futures Project released, I think this past week, where it contemplates more of a consortium approach where lots of nations will get together and think about AI safety writ large and, how we govern these systems so that they don't, destroy humanity. And I really hope that we end up with that approach, but that's certainly to be determined.
Yeah, I think humanity being destroyed is what they call maybe a bad outcome. Did I miss anybody on excitement?
My excitement comes from, it's so exciting to see new models being released every day. I guess now ChatGPT has a full-blown agentic system that rivals Perplexity and Claude. But as somebody who advises solos and small firms and tries to give them access to these tools, staying on top of this is just like, it's nice to have the news be fast and have new things emerging, but it's just difficult to stay on top of it and to know what's current and to be giving a demonstration one day and have it outdated like 2 weeks later because of changes in tools. So I think it's exciting that solos and smalls have access to so many different tools, but it makes me anxious that they may not have time to take advantage of them. And it also makes me anxious that there may not be resources to help shepherd them through this process. So, but overall, more excitement than anxiety.
Yeah, and Carolyn's good point is that, Ethan Mollick, who's a great writer and thinker on AI, said that even if the AI progress stops today, we still have like 5 or 10 years worth of, catching up to do for anybody to do it. So, but the thing is, it's not stopping today. It's keeping going forward. So Carolyn's point is a good one, that lawyers that are, even those of us on this panel who are thinking about this every single day, are overwhelmed. And so if we're overwhelmed, what is the typical lawyer that's head down doing their work, and what hope do they have going forward? So I think that's everyone's excitement has kind of given us some good foundations for and fodder for the next 45 minutes. But before we jump into jumping more deeply into this, my second question for the panel that we can do a round robin on is, I'm going to steal this from the AI and the Future of Law podcast. Jen and Bridget McCormick just do an amazing job, and they have a feature called the AI aha moment. And they're saying that what did you do in the last, week, month, quarter, what did you do with AI that was really interesting to you or surprising to you in a way that is helpful? So as maybe I set that for our panelists to think about their AI aha moments, I'm going to give mine that my wife and I have been thinking about buying a house, and we are thinking about, what if we, do we want to put a mortgage on it? Do we want to pay cash? And so we're doing this analysis. And so I used Claude Code to actually run a actual code to be able to say, okay, if you invest half in down payment and then the other half in mortgage versus paying for it outright, what are the opportunity costs if I had invested that in the stock market? And what if the stock market crashes? And maybe you can run a Monte Carlo simulation, but 1,000 ways that the stock market could go up and down. So these are things that I would have hired a financial planner for in the past. And we do have a financial planner, but my wife and I were able to push the knobs up and down to be able to say, what if the interest rate is this? What if we put this much in the mortgage and pay this much in cash? And we were able to do things in a way that our financial planner could never have helped us. And that was all done using 0 of my financial planner's times. And so that made me think, how much is this going to be for legal? That is, if there are tools that have yesterday's case, yesterday's statute, and yesterday's regulations, and our clients have sliders to be able to move things, here's my risk appetite or lack of risk appetite, and move things up and down. And, what if we pull out of this jurisdiction that prevents it, but go forward in that jurisdiction that permits it? What if clients can do that themselves with that kind of self-serve? And it made me, anyway, so that my AI aha moment is knowing that I can build tools so I don't have to use financial planners' times, just like our clients can use tools to be able to maybe use less of our time.
So for those who follow the escapades of Damien sharing his struggles with his neighbor's fence, we can read between the lines here that they're opting to move away. Okay, thank you, Damien.
It's funny, and to be clear, this is it seems douchey for me to say, but it's our vacation home. We're staying put in our current house.
Okay.
And with my litigation that's happening with my next door neighbor, I'm also using bots, that is associate bots, partner bots, opposing counsel bots, judicial bots, jury bots, to be able to do statistically likely ways to win against my neighbor. So there's also that too. All right, other AI aha moments from anybody?
I have just been addicted to setting up landing pages, websites in like 10 minutes with Claude Code and GitHub, and then uploading them online to Vercel. It reminds me of when I started my shingle, which was like so back in the dark ages that you didn't have like a WordPress, so you had to download the platform, and then I had to upload my things to the website and learn about some of the underlying code. And this is kind of like that, but it's just, I mean, it's unlimited. I could set up, you could set up like 35 sham businesses in 10 minutes with just these landing pages, and I can't stop myself. I'm addicted.
Yeah, and people do set up 35 sham business or thousands of sham businesses.
So, but it just made me realize that it's just another one of those. It used to be that a barrier to starting a law firm was getting your website up. It could be thousands of dollars and it could take months to get it together. And here you can have the copy written, you could have a landing page set up with a way for somebody to contact you and set up a paid consult literally in an afternoon. So it just blows my mind how these barriers to starting a practice are being reduced at a time when it's important for people to understand the value of their talent, because they may be losing work at big firms because of AI.
I love it. And that brings up a lot of, if you can build up, 35, 100, 1,000 websites, what makes the difference between your 1,000 websites and Nick's 1,000 websites or Dorna's 1,000 websites or Jasmine's 1,000 websites, right? And I think that's largely going to be taste. That is, Carolyn's taste is different than Jasmine's, different than Dorna's, different than Nick's, different than mine. And so taste is number one, and unique insights. That is, if you have something that that maybe fewer others do, then your website is going to be more interesting than everybody else's. But so let's talk about that a little bit more. But before we do that, other people with AI aha moments. What have they done over the last week, quarter, month that has been interesting or surprising?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you start, Donna.
I was just going to say, I have set up a few different like Claude brains, both for an employee who is on leave, and then also one just for myself, because I feel like I'm not as good at retaining all the information that I am privy to as Claude is. And so it helps me just like double check work that I'm doing against facts and, prior one-on-ones and prior product briefs, and like really just a whole suite of different things that I might want to do to have the most accurate information. And then for this like Claude brain that I have for this employee who's on leave, it really is like I can now ask it the dumb questions, the good questions, and I don't need to think about the fact that this person is on leave, but also I probably ask them questions that I never would have even asked and would have tried to figure out myself if this person were still available for me.
That is an awesome insight. And you can imagine how helpful that would be to have a partner brain where an associate would ask the stupid questions that they would never ask a partner. And you can imagine that would be helpful for lawyers. I think number two is that there's a company called Every, where every employee has a digital double. That is, they essentially have the context of that employee's email, Slack messages, document repositories, et cetera. And so within Every, the company, two clones can be able to talk to each other in Slack and get answers from each other in the way that so no human is actually bothered. But only if the clones can't figure it out, only then do you escalate that to a human. So you can imagine that's maybe something that not just an AI forward company like Every would do, but maybe law firms would do, that everybody has a digital double that is talking to each other and not bothering humans unless they're necessary. So yeah, let's talk about that more a bit later, but other AI aha moments from others.
Similar to Dorna, we also built a brain for an employee that was on parental leave, and sourced with Glean, particularly because Glean has access to Slack as well as Google Docs and Gmail. And so being able to source across all of those data sources and get answers that were consistent with what she had shared in the past was excellent for like product counseling, for example. A similar example I'll give you is my entire team uses Glean to do their sort of weekly look back report that they submit up to me on a weekly basis to just give me the snippets of what they've been working on. And historically, they would do that with just like their own top of minds, like, what do I feel like reporting on? But instead now they're actually using the skill that they built in Glean to go comb back through all of their messages, figure out how much time was spent on what. I've asked them to actually point to outcomes, not just actions. And so where the aha moment, I think, for a lot of my team is that we're translating some of the synthesis to your earlier point, like it is combining with the judgment and like delivering an output that has more taste, because it's not just like, I did these 6 things today. Instead, it's in service of these outcomes, I delivered this service to the company, and surfacing that to me is just so much more useful than I reviewed 22 vendor agreements or whatever it might be.
Awesome. I haven't been keeping track of AI aha moments. Anybody who's not said theirs, go ahead.
I haven't had an aha moment this month because I've actually been busy in the weeds more. However, this brain thing is incredible to me. This sounds awesome. Interesting. I didn't even know this Claude brain existed. I can't keep up with features in even the one application that I'm focused in right now. So that's never mind. Don't demo or tell me more about it right now. But thank you, Dorna and Jasmine, for this.
So you're saying this Legal AI Live is
This
your
is where
aha
I learned
moment.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
This
That's what I'm
is
talking
this
about.
is where I learned about the Claude Brain, and I'm now very interested in building one.
I
This
was
is-
today years old when we learned about that.
That's right. This is why we do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
We're all having these conversations anyway and learning about stuff behind closed doors. This is why we do it live on Legal AI Live. My aha moment, if you will, was not even for me, but I'm doing a lot of teaching on this now where I'm actually showing the tools and using the tools and a lot with the Chicago Bar Association because I'm one of the co-chairs of the Solo Small Firm Committee there. And one of the lawyers who was just on my Agentic browser how-to session said that they love WhisperFlow. And they said, quote, for older lawyers, it's like having a dictation machine and a talented assistant. And so like they took something I said from 2 months ago and have been using it and now come back to a different session and just say how it's been incredible because they are not a like young, spry, let's learn everything about AI lawyer. No, they're a more experienced attorney. They work with even older attorneys. And as the conversation went along in the CLE, they were just happy that like, here's an AI tool that they could get adoption from older lawyers to use. I mean, that's amazing.
And the older lawyers know about Dragon Naturally Speaking, which back in the day was promised to do exactly that. But of course, we as lawyers have kept, especially those, maybe seasoned as Carolyn and I, we've jumped off the ledge so many times and been hurt so many times
Yes.
by Dragon Naturally Speaking and
Let
others
down.
that like if you get beat enough, you sometimes don't get back up. But sadly, older lawyers, not sadly, excitedly, older lawyers are now realizing that the promise of Dragon Naturally Speaking is actually being achieved with WhisperFlow and things like it. And not just, dictating, but actually being a thought partner, where I've thought a lot about how voice is the next way to unlock all the insights that are stuck in lawyers' brains, but not in an artifact that can be used to show taste and to show the knowledge that they have. And so if a lawyer, maybe a seasoned veteran, could be able to just talk to the bot and be able to say, well, every time a lawyer says it depends, I would often say depends on what. And the bot can ask, say, what does it depend on, and put that then into an artifact. And maybe that can be done programmatically. So yeah, I think that teaching old lawyers new tricks, I guess, is maybe something that the AI can unlock.
I will
ahead.
add to that. One of my favorite things to do is because I have a father who is still to this day at 83 years old an early adopter. And so I'll give, for those who may be listening to this or watching this later, and you are a more seasoned attorney. My father is a real estate litigator, 83 years old, and he doesn't practice anymore, but he was having, or doesn't really practice anymore, but he was doing a couple of things recently, and he ran them through AI. One was, I think I've mentioned on here before, lease addendum for one of his rental properties, and he had AI create a lease addendum for him. Now he's done this a million times himself, and he read through it and he saw, I had to edit it, I had to update it a little bit, but it did a pretty good job. And then more recently, of a complaint. And he said, I decided to have AI run through kind of a first draft of a complaint. I wanted to see what it was like. And then he also had hired a lawyer to write a first draft of the complaint. And he said they were pretty good. Both of them were very similar. And so that is in his, with almost 60 years of experience in the law and real estate. And he's saying, AI does a pretty good job. So, and he's using it. I guess more importantly, for those of you who are a little afraid to maybe take the plunge, here he is doing it and having pretty good success with it. And so use that as your inspiration. If 83-year-old curmudgeon can do it, so can you.
Awesome. So knowing that do we have all the AI ahas, or do we have any outstanding that haven't been said?
That ends part 1 of this month's Legal AI Live. Make sure to subscribe to the Legal AI Live podcast at legalailive.com to catch part 2. You could also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, or on any podcast app, just search Legal AI Live, and follow the Legal AI Live page on LinkedIn. See you next episode.